This man, who is accused of shooting his ex-girlfriend more than 20 times.
Fuck your courtroom, man! You racist as fuck! You racist as fuck!
That was wrong of us because we're not monsters. I just want peace. That's all I want.
In accordance with the laws of the state, this is Rene, a 30-year-old man facing battery charges in Las Vegas, Nevada. Rene was on probation for a separate case when he got into a confrontation with a Las Vegas police officer, a clerk, and a marshal. During the incident, he spat on an officer, which led to his arrest for battery. In court, Rene appeared calm and composed. The judge, however, had a sharp response during this exchange.
Based on my criminal history, I feel that I shouldn't be sent to prison for a second time.
Have you looked at your criminal history? Have you looked at your criminal history?
I actually just I look at it.
I mean, you lived it, I suppose.
I just looked at it, yeah.
Yeah. Shape that, but I think it's time that you get a taste of something else because I just can't with that history.
While the judge was speaking, things took a shocking turn.
In accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, this court.
Rene launched himself over the podium, slamming Judge Mary Kay Hollis to the ground. He punched her, grabbed her hair, and put his hands around her throat. Court deputies quickly intervened, pulling him away, but he didn't go down without a fight. Deputies, along with some court attendees, resorted to physically subduing him until additional backup arrived. Judge Hollis was hurt in the attack and struggled to get up, but fortunately, she didn't require hospitalization. When Rene appeared in court again, he was restrained with a helmet and mittens. Interestingly, Judge Hollis refused to step away from the case, insisting that she be the one to sentence him.
For purposes of the record, I want to make it clear that I am not changing or modifying the sentence I was in the process of imposing last week before I was interrupted by defendant's actions. I am making my calendar page from that day an exhibit for the court as it existed the moment I walked in, from prior to anything happening. Nothing's been changed, indicating the sentence I intended to impose.
Rene was sentenced to 4 years for the battery charge, with additional charges for the attack to be determined later. This case was extreme. But what happens when a judge takes drastic measures to silence a defendant? Meet Franklin Williams. He was in court appealing a robbery conviction in Ohio. Williams had been sentenced to 14 years in 2016, but argued that his attorney had not properly explained the charges. In court, Williams did one thing: talk.
I just met this attorney the other day.
That's fine. So
here,
okay.
I came and took my cell phones yesterday, and they came and took all my property out my cell today.
Mr. Williams, I'm the judge in the matter. Shut your mouth, and I'll tell you when you can talk. You got it?
At this point, the judge decided to hear from the attorneys, but Williams wasn't listening.
But you not letting me tell
That
you
means
what's going on.
zip it right now.
You trying to?
Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't.
No. Does the comment quit talking? Do you understand that?
The judge gave Williams a final warning.
Mr. Williams, listen to me. I'm gonna gag you in 1 second, so just listen to me. Zip it until I give you a chance to talk. You'll get a chance to talk.
But Williams continued, pushing the judge to take action.
If you spit on, attempt to bite, or injure any of my deputies, you're going to have a bad day.
None of that.
Oh, you
Put
clear.
the tape on me, man. We done with this shit.
Even after being gagged, Williams continued trying to speak, refusing to stay silent. When it was time for sentencing, Williams composed himself and stated,
Your Honor, I ask today, Your Honor, that I receive the lightest sentence that you can give me.
Williams also made a statement to the public.
I want the world to know I am not an animal. Contrary to what people may think, I am a man.
The judge later apologized for the use of tape, and a new judge was assigned.
And no, you're not an animal, Mr. Williams. You're a human being But the question the court has to determine is whether or not you've learned from those mistakes.
The new judge showed an unusual level of compassion, allowing Williams to say goodbye to his mother before being taken to prison. In the next case, the defendant remained completely silent, yet still found himself in a physical altercation. This is Chance Mao, a 17-year-old facing charges for grand theft auto, robbery, failure to comply with police orders, and harassment involving bodily substances in Columbus, Ohio. On March 4, 2016, Mao was living in a halfway house for juvenile offenders when he took a stolen car for a joyride. When officers spotted him speeding, in court the situation escalated, but surprisingly, it wasn't Mao who initiated the violence. Instead, it was a courtroom official. After a bailiff forcefully pushed Mao back into his seat, Mao reacted, saying, "Don't put your hands on me." The bailiff reprimanded him, but then suddenly put Mao in a chokehold, wrapping his other hand around Mao's mouth. He then shoved Mao out of his chair and dragged him across the courtroom. Due to his actions, the bailiff agreed to resign from law enforcement. Mao's family decided not to press charges. Ultimately, Mao was sentenced to 6 years for his crimes. He was just a teenager when he first entered the courtroom. But how does his case compare to that of a repeat offender who ends up in a heated argument with a judge?
Fuck your courtroom, you racist ass bitch! Fuck your courtroom, man! You racist as fuck!
Meet Manson Brian. He was in court facing charges for first-degree home invasion and kidnapping in Cleveland, Ohio. Brian and 2 female accomplices were caught during a violent home invasion in 2018. While his accomplices chose to plead guilty, Brian decided to fight the charges in court. This was his 4th time appearing before this particular judge, and the judge had no intention of being lenient.
I am thankful for the opportunity and afforded by court, by the day in court, and I respect the decisions that the juries have made. And all I ask is for you to give me an opportunity to still make something out of my life, sir.
However, this time, the judge wasn't convinced by Brian's display of remorse.
The last time before this time that I had him, I put him in prison for 4 years for a robbery. He acted out briefly on his way out of the courtroom, and I just let it go. The judge made it clear that if Brian were released back into society, he would likely continue to prey on others. Then came the moment he learned his fate. Followed by the gun spec on count 1, followed by the gun spec on count 3, followed by count 1, followed by count 2, for a total of 22 years with credit for 231 days.
As soon as he heard the sentence, Brian began muttering in disbelief to his attorney. His lawyer motioned for him to stay quiet, but that did little to stop him.
The court determines that you have or will have the ability to pay restitution.
Fuck your courtroom, you racist ass bitch! Fuck your courtroom, man! You racist as fuck! You racist as fuck! Nigga, 22 fucking years! Racist ass bitch!
The reality of his sentence truly hit.
For some remorse.
You never gave me probation!
Wait a minute.
You never gave me a chance!
When I said that you had a certain amount of remorse, I was mistaken.
With that, the judge proceeded with the full sentencing. Brian was originally sentenced to 22 years, but his outburst earned him an additional 6 years, bringing the total to 28 years. It's always tragic when a killer takes a young life, but what happens when the killer is a teenager themselves? This is Frank DeLeon Jr., a Houston native charged in a shocking homicide. The victim was Diamond Alvarez, a 16-year-old high school sophomore from Houston, Texas. On January 11, 2022, she was out walking her dog when tragedy struck. Alvarez had gone to meet her boyfriend, Frank DeLeon Jr., at a nearby park. She had recently discovered that Frank had been secretly seeing another girl and arranged to meet him to break things off. But instead of a conversation, Frank pulled out a gun and opened fire. Police reported that DeLeon shot Alvarez 22 times, most of the bullets striking her in the back after she was already down. Frank pleaded guilty to the charges, and it seemed like the court proceedings would go smoothly. That is, until chaos erupted inside the courtroom.
You keep saying my daughter, not to hurt my daughter!
Just after delivering her victim impact statement, Alvarez's mother lost control. She stormed toward her daughter's killer, but deputies quickly intervened and held her back. Then, Diamond's uncle got involved. lunging forward and landing a direct punch to Frank's jaw. At that moment, Frank's mother jumped in to protect him, sparking a heated confrontation between the two families. The two mothers clashed, wrestling and throwing punches until deputies forcibly separated them. Diamond's uncle was immediately placed in handcuffs, and the judge ordered a recess to allow everyone to calm down. Afterward, Alvarez's mother reflected on the courtroom brawl.
It was wrong of me. That was wrong of us because we're not monsters. But it's so much hate because I want my daughter back. And what he did it was horrible.
No recording equipment was allowed inside the courtroom for that moment. Deon was sentenced to 45 years in prison. As for Diamond, her family continues to mourn her loss.
I just want peace. That's what I want.
This young life was tragically cut short by Frank's violent actions.